Continuing on with the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and we are on chapter 29, about what, 2.5 pages or so from the end. Uh, is a mother to be trifled with, is the first words of the paragraph today. And it's the master talking. We'll just start at the beginning where the master first starts talking for context. So Sri Ramakrishna is sitting here with quite a few devotees hanging around. There's Bhavanath in there, and they're conversing mostly, just the two of them. But Narendra is there, and there's several others. And he's talking just in general. He says, if it is his sweet will, he says, can't God fulfill a devotee's desire? And the master says, well, if it is his sweet will, but God doesn't take entire responsibility for a devotee unless the devotee is completely intoxicated with ecstatic love for him. Right? And this is just an indication. Oh, here comes Anna. This is it's important here to know that it's because when I'll tell you why that I have to think about these things when I read them. Because I didn't like as a young man growing up in Christianity, I didn't like my love being held hostage, that I had to love God without condition, right, in order to get myself to go to heaven. I always felt like that was some sort of exploitation, or that it was being extorted from me somehow. Like, well, what's the option, It's like, if I don't love you with everything, then I just burn in torture for the rest of my life. It's like, how am I supposed to come up with an honest and sincere love given those those choices, right? And so when I read this, that triggers that, that God doesn't take entire responsibility for a devotee unless the devotee is completely intoxicated with ecstatic love for him. When I read that, I understand nowadays that is not the requirement for, but a sign of a person who is at that level of surrender to the beloved, to the divine within. That when you surrender inside, when you let go of your ego, meaning God is always trying to get you to do the right things. that's just that's just normal, right? But our ego self is always trying to take the better route, the easier route, the faster route, the less painful route, whatever it imagines that it knows better. And so even though God may be trying to fulfill our true desire, if we insist on fulfilling our momentary desire, he's going to let us do that. And it's not because you don't love him that he allows you to hurt yourself. It's because it's because you have not surrendered yourself to him. You don't trust him more than you trust yourself. And so you choose to trust yourself. And as long as that's going on, one, you're not going to feel that intoxication of divine bliss. And two, God's not going to be able to fulfill your real desires, your true desires. And so in this, when it's God's sweet will and you've properly returned to yourself, to your nature, which means you've silenced your mind, you sit in the presence of the beloved, and you are very warmly I don't want to say warmly intoxicated, but I guess it is. That's probably the way to say it. That when you sit in that full surrender and quiet mind, you're overwhelmed with bliss. There's a wonderful bliss in there. And you can always tell, this is something I've learned for weird things over the years, that those tears of bliss come from the outside of the eyes. I think Ramakrishna even says this somewhere, where tears of sorrow or sadness or pain come from the inner side of your eyes. And I remember reading that at some point and not thinking it was true because I had never had tears that came from the outside of my eyes. And I have to say that in the last 10 years of my practice, I finally had a tear or two come from the outside of the eyes. And I thought I was very excited. I was like, well, at least something's growing. So that's my big claim there. So God doesn't take entire responsibility for a devotee unless the devotee is completely intoxicated with the ecstatic love for him. So how much responsibility does he take? He takes responsibility for all the area that's outside of your free will, right? For that area that's beside the 10-foot long goat rope that you're on tied to the pole. Remember, I'm referencing what he said about free will. He said, mankind has some free will. You know, it's like a goat tethered to a pole. Within that 10 feet of rope, it's your choice of what you do. Beyond that 10 feet, it's already been determined. And what's beyond that 10 feet, like where you were born, what your resources are, whether your parents were, holy people or not, or all that stuff that you're not in charge of, but yet sets the course for your life, what country you're born in, all those things. Those things set a course, or at least give you a set of possibilities for your life, and you can transcend them to some degree. That's the old story that you can transcend those things. So those things, God sets those up for you to give you the best advantage for where you're at in your life. There's always there to the Lord, to the beloved, there's only good karma. He only does things for good reasons, for helpful reasons. We call them good and bad karma because we sometimes don't want the punishment. So we think, oh, that's bad karma, right? But without that punishment, you wouldn't have learned and you couldn't have come to transcendence. And so it turns out that that thing which seemed so terrible actually was a good thing for you. It was the challenge that you needed to work through. And so, in a sense, God takes full responsibility for you all the time, but he doesn't take full responsibility for fulfilling your particular desires of the moment, right? He leaves that to you and your free will. And that he kind of stands aside as a loving parent. He's like, okay, I told you 9 times not to touch the stove. If you've just got to go do it, sometimes you just got to let the kid touch the stove. You make sure he doesn't grab the burner directly or so, but you let him understand. I'm not telling you that because I'm a mean parent. I'm not telling you that because I want to control you, right? And all these reasons that I can come up with, these are all reasons, all thoughts I've had about God at different times in my life. That he's trying to control me. I always have to do everything his way. And how come I can't do anything my way? And how come he puts me in this condition and then condemns me for this condition? It's like boom, 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 all these angers and whatnots, these narratives that our egos come up with, right? And I'm starting to see that these narratives are layers and layers deep in my own psyche. I notice that when things happen to me where I don't have any information except what has happened to me, immediately my mind has at least 10 narratives of why that happened to me, right? And most of the time they're not pleasant. It's always, oh, somebody doesn't like me. Oh, somebody was mad at me. Oh, somebody, whatever. Just a number of these narratives go on. And this is what we have to surrender. It's those narratives that prevent us from having this intoxicated state of ecstatic love for God, because we've run layers and layers of narratives that are stealing that from us. And so, in this state, God will, if you are in that state of surrender and that state of presence, being in the presence of the beloved, that intoxicated ecstasy for him will be the sign that you are completely surrendered. And in that complete surrender, God, in his sweet will take care of all of your responsibilities, right? And at that point, your will and God's will are the same. So that would include, it would look like God is fulfilling your personal desires of the moment. But in fact, with pure mind, your desire and God's desire are one. And so he's actually giving you the best of the universe, and you're seeing it as having all of your desires fulfilled, right? But it's really a state of perfect harmony, a state of oneness, because God and you have never been separate. So he was never, or she was never, out to get you. At a feast, it is only a child whom one takes by the hand and seats at his place. Who does that with older people? Not until a man thinks so much of God that he cannot look after himself does God take on his responsibilities. Hazra doesn't inquire about his family. His son said to Ramlal, "Please ask father to come home. We shall not ask anything of him." These words almost brought tears to my eyes. Hazra's mother said to Ramlal, "Please ask Pratap to come home just once. Also ask your uncle to request him to come home." I told him about it, but he did not listen to me. Is a mother to be trifled with? Before becoming a sannyasi, Chaitanya Devi worked hard to persuade his mother to let him renounce home. Mother Sakshi said that she would kill Kesha Bharati. Chaitanya Deva did his utmost to persuade her. He said, "Mother, I shall not renounce home if you won't let me, but if you compel me to lead a householder's life, I shall die. And mother, even if I go away as a sannyasi, you will be able to see me whenever you desire. I shall stay near you. I shall see you every now and then." Only when Chaitanya explained it to her thus did she give her permission. Narada could not go to the forest to practice austerity as long as his mother was alive. He had to take care of her. After her death, he went away to realize God. Yes, and the Ramakrishna order really respects this notion. But there is a tradition for monastics, that you do your best to get the permission from the people that you love in your life. But if there's no way to get that permission, there is room for just going forward and doing what you need to do. And for those from the traditions, well, the traditions here in the West are kind of lost. It's sort of up to the swamis at the center as to what the things are. But at the center in San Francisco, he took it quite seriously. For 12 years, I was not allowed to go home to my family house. And on that 12th year, he gave me permission to go home for Christmas Day, but it was in Redding, and the monastery was in San Francisco, and Redding's like a 5-hour drive from from San Francisco. So I had to get up like at 4 o'clock in the morning and drive up to Redding, right, and stay the day with my parents and leave at 6 o'clock and get back to the monastery by 11 p.m. I know, that was probably one of the most painful things I ever did. That was really, really hard going up there just for a day and then ripping yourself out at the end of the day. It was just, oof, goodness. But anyway, it's all for a good reason because it allows you then to get an objectivity about yourself. That's the reason. It's one of the reasons. There's many reasons for it. No one defines you as much as your relatives. No one will insist that you stay the same person as much as your relatives. Right? No one will treat you like their little boy, like a relative, like a parent. And to escape that kind of perspective of yourself without leaving the environment that formed it is very difficult, right? But in this teachings like this, you see that it has nothing to do with the mother in the sense that it's not because of the purity or the impurity of the family that we renounce. It's not because there's something wrong with family and household life that we renounce. It has nothing to do with the other. It has everything to do with the heart of the sannyasin and what is necessary for his growth. And so every effort is made, to love, because that is still the watchword for Vedanta. Freedom, pure love. When I went to Vrindavan, I felt no desire to return to Calcutta. It was arranged that I should live with Gangama. Everything was settled. My bed was to be on one side and Gangama's on the other. I resolved not to go back to Calcutta. I said to myself, how long must I eat a Kaivarta's food? No, said Hriday to me. Let us go back to Calcutta. He pulled me by one hand and Gangama pulled me by the other. I felt an intense desire to live in Vrindavan, but just then I remembered my mother. That completely changed everything. She was old. I said to myself, my devotion to God will take to wings if I have to worry about my mother. I would rather live with her. Then I shall have peace of mind and be able to meditate on God. Right? So even with Ramakrishna, you see that deep attachment. And that deep attachment is appropriate for Ramakrishna. Why? Because he had an equally deep detachment, so that he could love his mother this deeply, and he could let go of his mother as easily. Right? And that's the ideal. Vivekananda makes that very clear. He says detachment's not the ideal. Sometimes we get, because we're always talking about detachment, because none of us is having a problem with attachment, right? Not being able to attach to things is not a problem for us. And so the scripture doesn't talk that much about it. But detachment, oh Lord, that is so hard. So we got tons of teaching on it. And that leads us sometimes to believe that detachment is the ideal, that sitting there drooling on a log and doing nothing all day is the ideal of spiritual life, to be completely detached. Not so, says Vivekananda. He said the ideal is that your power of attachment is matched by your power of detachment. Right. And so that's why we're practicing to try and get our detachment to match our attachment so that we're not trapped by things in the world. To Narendra, why don't you say a few words to Hazra about going home? The other day he said to me, yes, I shall go home and stay there 3 days, but now he's forgotten all about it. I wonder if I was Hazra. To the devotees, we have talked about filthy things, Goshpara and things like that. Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Now chant the name of Hari. Let there be a dish of rice pudding and sweets after the ordinary lentils. Right? That's always a great thing. If you've noticed that you've been worldly or that you've been out and about, it's that's what your home shrine. That's not what it's for. It's for loving God. But certainly you go in there and refresh yourself. Right? I'm doing a lecture on Sunday called In Breath of the Soul, and so I'm thinking a lot about what that means. And that is that refreshment, that our relationship with the beloved, our shrine room, our place of practice, should be to us, like the smoothie counter at the gym. Where you go work out and then you go and order a smoothie that's got 750 calories in it to refresh yourself after that terrible workout, right? And so the shrine is that. You come home after a weary day. It's like instead of whatever your if it's not your normal routine, how lovely of a routine it would be to, go into the shrine, sit down for a few minutes and just be in peace for a moment. Be reminded of what's real. Be reminded of what's important. And center your mind in those places again and find that love within yourself and sit there for a moment and trust it. Open up to it. And then when you walk out the door to your family, then you can love them with that love. You can give that to them. Narendra began to sing, fasten your mind, O man, on the primal Purusha. Right? So he's telling us, put your mind in the heart, the unchanging, that unchanging part of you that has always been your I. Fasten your mind, O man, on the primal Purusha, who is the cause of all causes, the stainless one, the beginningless truth. Right? That stainless one means no particularity, no mere mine in there, so that distortion doesn't happen in that place, in that silence. The stainless one, the beginningless truth, right? That which is of the nature of the moment. The moment is a constant revelation of truth, right? And so to be at that part of the moment which doesn't change, through which all of the time, space, and causation passes, that's the you that you have to know yourself to be. As prana, right? As this love that is the only motivating force in the universe. As prana, he pervades the infinite universe. The man of faith beholds him, living, resplendent, the root of all. Right? And so it's the man who's walking in a dream, knowing that he's in a dream and understanding that everything he is seeing is of mind, is made of mind stuff, is Brahman. And he walks with that awareness. He's not asleep, he's not unaware. He walks through the world knowing that this is a play, a manifestation of divine love at all of its different manifestations. And he is not attached because he knows that everything is him and he is everything. He's not particularized, so he needs nothing. There is no narrative because he knows, right? In the moment, he's clear, he's fresh, he knows what is real. The man of faith beholds him living. He's the very essence, the life. He's the vigor of everything all around. Boy, when you're walking in the mountains and you hear that rushing water of the creek, and you see how many birds are flying, and you see the elk, and you see the the coolest little ground squirrels and marmots and whatever other things going on up there. And you just see all of this life just teeming and all of the harmony around you of how the trees bend to obey the winds and how they make space for each other and how they just all of it. You can see it as a competition if you want to, but I like to see it as a dance, a harmony, right? Of everything working together, everything being as it is. And so the man of faith, the person of faith, beholds that, sees that everywhere, sees that life, living, resplendent. Boy, the challenge is to see resplendence in McDonald's, but but if you're out walking in the woods, it's quite easy to see the resplendent, the gorgeous, the wonder of God everywhere. The root of all, right? It's out of that silence that everything comes. It's that silence that allows for every sentence. That emptiness allows for every object. It's the root of all things. He shines in the cave of the heart. There it is. He shines in the cave of the heart. Adorned with what? With holiness. That's the silence. Holiness is the silence. That sacredness. You dare not speak. When you're in that kind of environment, when you're in that kind of space, the vulgarity of any word is apparent. That's why Ramakrishna says he used to go to such heights that he said he had to come down several levels just to say Om, because there is a holiness where even the word Om is a disturbance, right? There is a sacredness far beyond. And so he says, adorned with holiness, with wisdom. This is that wisdom that is inherent to you, not the relative referential wisdom of thinking, but a knowing of the moment with no exertion of egoism. You cannot take a wrong step because Satchitananda is what is inspiring the movement, not a hunger of the ego, right? He shines in the cave of the heart, adorned with holiness, wisdom, and of course, love. That wonderful, wonderful love of God that comes for no reason as soon as you're able to trust that it's there. By meditating on Him, man is delivered from grief, of countenance ever serene, right? Just somebody who's not bothered, somebody always present, somebody always loving, ever serene, an inexhaustible ocean of virtue. That's what I think of when I look reading about Rama. just a just a character who has just an infinite stream of nobility coming out of him, just an ocean of virtue like that. Just wonderful. This is what God is freeing in each one of us. None can fathom his depths, right? So this you'll be falling in love with the divine every day for eternity. Of course, that's a totally illegal sentence, but good enough for an idea. You will never love God as much as you want to love God, because God will always be more lovable than the limit of your love, no matter how high that bar goes. So, for all the days of your life, every time you see your beloved partner, you'll be more in love with them than you were the day before. No one will fathom the depths, yet freely of his own grace does he reveal himself to those who come to his feet for shelter, right? So he reveals in this grace, in this freely of his own grace does he reveal himself. Well, what is that? This universe is constantly, it's only revealing him, only revealing the divine. Where does the grace come in? In your ability to see it, your ability to know it by laying down your blinders, your egoism, your me and mine. By forfeiting your me and mine, you become aware of this divinity manifested by grace all around you constantly. Does he, of his own grace, does he reveal himself to those who come to his feet for shelter? You see, come to his feet for shelter, not for anything else. There is no need of anything else. Thou art that. Go for shelter and take shelter. And to take that shelter, you have to trust it to be shelter. You have to know it to be safety. You have to know it to be that place that you would choose to be. It's the Santa Barbara of your heart. That place where everybody would live if they could. All right. I take it back. All right. To those who come to his feet for shelter, merciful since they are helpless, and he is the ever forgiving, the giver of happiness, the ready help in the sea of our woe. Wow, what three beautiful names right there. Merciful since they are helpless. Well, helpless in what way? Well, the most important way, you don't exist. In the sense you're not the doer, right? You're helpless. You're lost in ignorance. You don't know who you are or what needs to be done. You only know a shallow little chip of the moment, and even that you can't focus on. So you're helpless. But we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to be terrified in that ignorance. Merciful because you're helpless, right? Because you're helpless, God is merciful. He is the ever forgiving, right? God keeps no record of wrongs. So the divine beloved, ever forgiving, ever forgiving. Just try and find a sliver of sincerity within yourself and turn to him, her, that to take your refuge. And the door is open. By his own promise, the door is open. The ever forgiving, great name. The giver of happiness, oh indeed. He'll have you giggling like a schoolgirl in no time at all. Right? Just a little bit of surrender is a whole lot of chuckling. Because he'll show you. It's all fun. It's a play. Yeah, it gets serious. Sometimes there's a hard scene in a movie. But it always ends well. All right. Merciful since they are ever helpless. He is the ever forgiving, the giver of happiness, the ready help in the sea of our woe. Right? Ever present, any moment that you turn. You know, once you've found the space, and once you've cleared your mind, and done some of the practice that's necessary for all of that, it's always available to you. Right? It's always available to you. All you have to do is remember, stop for a moment, take a breath, and find the presence. And Mother always is present. The ready help in the sea of our woe, unswervingly just, right? And that's karma. Unswervingly just. So those times when we've let me and mine take control, we're going to get our knees scraped and our elbows bumped. A divine justice. When things in our life happen, we take everything and we understand first principle, whatever happens to you, there was only one motive for it, and it was the love of the divine. And so our practice is to find that space, that perspective, where we can see the good in everything that happens. Challenge upon challenge, I'm telling you. But it will always work out. That will train you in wisdom. If you sit, and if you can't find it, you say, I can't find it. I feel unjust. I feel like you're picking on me again. And you work it out, because Mother wants you to see. She wants you to understand. Unswervingly just, bestowing the fruits of our deeds, indeed, good and ill. Yet is he the fount of compassion, the ocean of mercy brimming with love. Right? The fount of compassion. Oof, that's beautiful. I was thinking, that small place in the heart where they sometimes say it's the size of a thumb, where God unmanifest somehow enters into manifestation, that within you is that little fountain of pure love that's constantly flowing, that then you use for all of your different aspects of life. And in ignorance, we use it for all kinds of things, right? But that it's this the fount of compassion, that this is your life, your moment. It's at that fountain where you get your existence. It's at that fountain where you learn of love. It's at that fountain where you find wisdom, all the tools that you need to be whole, to be full, to know your nature. Even to hear of his glory suffuses the eyes with tears. Gaze on his face and be blessed. Your heart is hungry for him, O man. Indeed, every hunger of your heart is for God. Right? When there's a place where Ramakrishna says that, when we learn to love God with the love of a paramour for her lover, the love of a man for his chaste wife, a love for the child for his mother. There's five of them. I don't remember what they all are. And I used to think, oh gosh, I have to build that kind of love for God. How am I going to do that? Just reading a book, reading a book and talking to the wind. How am I going to do that? Right? But that's not how it happens. It happens through discernment. When you start looking at the things that you think you love that are not God, when you identify what it is in those things that you love, you will find that it was God, right? And that's the delusion. And so your work is to understand you already love God with all of that love, but you've dispersed it amongst all of these refractions of God. And so our job is not to come up with a new love. We don't have to do that. The love for God is natural and born of our own essence. But you have to collect your love, put it all together in a braid, as it were, right? Get all the pieces together. Understand that the love for the things in the world was a confusion, that it was promising things it couldn't give you because it was flickering a name of God at you. It was just a pointer at the real, right? It was always just pointing at the unchanging within you. Everything that changes is always flashing and pointing. You know that I'm changing because there's something in you not changing. Go there. Gaze on his face and be blessed. Your heart is hungry for him, O man, bright with unspeakable beauty. And that's why Taco would just stand there like, because literally unspeakable beauty. You just, I'm just, I mean, this is to come up with any kind of metaphor is ridiculous. But I just remember those two times, that first time in the mountains with Greg, when I came around that corner and first saw just that majestic peak going up and a waterfall falling in front of it and the beautiful pond reflecting the sky. I just stopped. I just stopped. And I felt like I was breathing through a straw because I could not let the beauty that I knew was there come in. I felt my senses to be too small to appreciate the beauty I was actually seeing. And that is God. When you sit there in silence because you can't open wide enough to let the love that you're seeing, to let the beauty that you're experiencing wash through you, you know, you just are staggered by it. Bright with unspeakable beauty, peerless and without stain. No words can ever describe him, right? That's why we sit in silence. Silence is the best name of God. Peerless and without stain, no words can ever describe him. Be as a beggar before his gate, and worship him day and night, beseeching him for his grace. Ramakrishna sings again. In wisdom's firmament, the moon of love is rising full, and love's hood tide in surging waves is flowing everywhere. O Lord, how full of bliss you are, victory to you. On every side Shine devotees like stars around the moon. Their friend, the Lord, all merciful, joyously plays with them. Behold, the gates of paradise today are open wide. Can you imagine being in the room and having Ramakrishna sing that to you? Behold, today the gates of paradise are open wide. Right? Just to remind you, that would be a nice thing to write on the ceiling above your pillow. So you wake up every morning, the first words you see are, Behold, the gates of paradise today are open wide. Right? How beautiful that would be. Sri Ramakrishna was dancing in a circle, of course. He's dancing. How wonderful. The devotees joined him. They all sang and they all danced. Their bliss was indescribable. The master sang about the Divine Mother. Behold my mother playing with Shiva, lost in an ecstasy of joy. Sri Ramakrishna was highly pleased because M had joined in the music. He said to M with a smile, the atmosphere would have been more intense with divine fervor if a drum had accompanied the music and played Takatagdina, Dak Dak Dadina. Who said this? M with a smile. Oh, no wonder. Oh, he's goofing. It's like, how could you be in the presence of God and be like, it would have been better with a drum. But it was M, and he was saying it with a smile. So he was, he was playing with Thakur. It was dusk, and the kirtan was finished. All right, Wednesday, October 1st, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna had set out from Dakshineshwar for Adar's house in Calcutta. Narayan and Gangadhar were there with him. In the carriage, in an ecstatic mood, he said, Shall I count the beads? Shall I do my japam? How shameful that would be. This emblem of Shiva has sprung from the bowels of the earth. It is self-created and not set up by man's hands. Right? So there's a time when even that is below us. They arrived at Adar's house, where many devotees, including Kedar, Baburam, and Vijay, had assembled. Vaishnav Charan, the musician, was present. At the master's behest, Adar heard Vaishnav Charan's music daily after his return from the office. When the master entered Adar's drawing room, the devotees stood up to receive him. Kedar and Vijay saluted him, and the master asked Narayan and Baburam to salute Kedar and Vijay. He asked Kedar and Vijay to bless Narayan and Baburam that they may have devotion to God. Pointing to Narayan, he said, He is utterly guileless. The eyes of the devotees were fixed on the two boys. Boy, that's something for Thakur to look at you and say, this person is utterly guileless. What does that mean? There's no agenda in him whatsoever. He's not playing this game for a result. He's purely present. He's purely here. What an amazing sentence to say. Master, to Kedar and the other devotees, it is good that I have met you all here. Otherwise, perhaps you would have come to the Kali temple to see me. Through the will of God, however, we have met here. I had that happen. I had that happen on Durga Puja Day. I had a devotee call in the morning, and it said his name was Eric, and said that he was going to come by around 4. Would that work out? I said, yeah, no, 4 should be fine. Come on by. So at 4 o'clock, I get a text. I'm at your house. I'm standing outside the front door. So I go to the front door. I open. There's nobody out there. So I walk around the house. There's nobody around anywhere. I said, Eric, I said, I don't see you anywhere. Where are you? He says, I'm standing right on your front porch, 705 South Roosevelt Avenue in Lafayette. I was like, oh, wow, I'm so sorry. You still have about 1,500 miles to go. So he sees, that's just off the top of my head. I'm sorry about that. Who cares? It is good to have you that I've met you all here. Otherwise, maybe you would have come to the Kali temple to see me. Through the will of God, however, we have met here. Kedar with folded hands. The will of God. It is all your will. Sri Ramakrishna smiled. Vaishnav Charan began a kirtan about Radha and Krishna. When the music was nearing its end, with the union of Radha and Krishna, the master began to dance with an ecstatic fervor. Just think about that. Picture that. Just what's an ecstatic fervor? I mean, he is overcome with. I know this. I know some of you do this in private. I'm sure of it. When you just that song comes on and you just throw your whole day into it, just rah, rah, dance, 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 all by yourself, as if no one's watching. So the master is dancing just exactly that way. The master began to dance with that ecstatic fervor. The devotees danced and sang around him. Oh, after the music, they all sat down. The master said to Vijay, referring to Vaishnav Charan, "Oh, he sings very well." He asked the musician to sing the song about Sri Chaitanya, beginning with the line, "The beautiful Gauranga, the youthful dancer, fair as molten gold." When the song was over, the master asked Vijay, "How did you like it?" Vijay, "Wonderful." Sri Ramakrishna also sang a song about Sri Chaitanya, with M joining him. Then Vaishnav Charan sang another song. "O my flute, sing Hari's name. You cannot know the highest truth without Lord Hari's grace." Right. You know, this is making me think of something. When I went to when I was in India, what, a month ago, I guess, or 4 months ago. Oh my God, 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago now. Wow. When I was over there, I went to an art exhibition at the Institute of Culture in downtown, and I saw one of the most beautiful paintings I've ever seen. It was done by an Indian woman, oil painter. And what it was the face of Radha after Krishna has gone away, and she's holding his flute in front of her face, and she's gazing at that. It was so beautiful. He captured so much love and so much heartache and so much joy and so much bliss and so much pain in that picture in the eyes of Radha as she held Krishna's flute, just it was incredible. I just sat there staring at that picture for a long time. I was like, wow, for an artist to be able to catch all of that, what a thing. "O my flute, sing Hari's name. You cannot know the highest truth without Lord Hari's grace. His name removes our bitter grief. Repeat the name of Hari then. Repeat Sri Krishna's holy name. If he bestows his grace on me, no longer shall be afraid. If he bestows his grace on me, no longer shall I be afraid of this unfriendly world. Sing then Lord Hari's name, my flute. Our only treasure is his name." Govinda says, "Behold, my days are passing by in vain. In the world's deep and shoreless sea, oh, let me not be drowned." This is very important in here because we read this, we'll sing, we'll read this here. "Sing then Lord Hari's name, my flute. Our only treasure is his name." We read that, and well, I won't accuse you all of this, but I've read that in my life and just saw that as sort of poetic flight. Oh, this is my only treasure, right? Not having any understanding of what a treasure it really is. When that name, the first time that it takes you home for a second, that it shows you the peace of the silence within you. And when you come to know, when you get to a space in life where that name takes you there, anytime that you need to go there, that at that moment we know this is the only treasure I have. This is the only thing worthwhile. That simply uttering it will give me bliss, will give me joy, will pull me out of this unfriendly world, right? Then we know it is, in fact, our only treasure. Govinda says, "Behold, my days are passing by in vain. In the world's deep and shoreless sea, oh, let me not be drowned." Right? Drowned by what? By the noise of egoism. The constant stream of narratives that keep you running and fleeing and searching and finding, jumping and sitting, waking and sleeping. Vaishnav Charan sang again, this time about Mother Durga. O tongue, always repeat the name of Mother Durga. Who but your Mother Durga will save you in distress? The master and the musician sang again and again the following lines from the song. Wow. The moving and the unmoving, the gross and the abs and the subtle art thou. Creation and preservation art thou, and the last dissolution. Thou art the primal root of this manifold universe, the mother of the three worlds, their only savior art thou. Thou art the Shakti of all, and thou thine own Shakti too. So he sang that over and over and over again. The moving and the unmoving, the gross and the subtle are you. Creation and preservation are you, and the last dissolution. You are the primal root of this manifold universe, the mother of the three worlds, their only savior are you. You are the Shakti, you are the energy of all, and you are your own Shakti too. Kedar and several devotees stood up. They were about to return home. Kedar saluted the master and bade him goodbye. Master, should you go away without bidding Adar goodbye? Wouldn't that be an act of discourtesy? Kedar, when God is pleased, the world is pleased. You are staying, so in a sense we are all staying. Oh my. I am not feeling well. Besides, I am a little nervous about my social conventions. Once before I had trouble with our community. Right. It's funny, when God is pleased, the world is pleased. You are staying, so in a sense all of us are staying, but I'm not feeling well. I'm a little nervous about my social conventions, right? So he didn't have the proper caste to be in the company he was in, and so he was feeling a little bit uncomfortable about that. Once before, I had trouble with our community, right? In India, that's how it works. It's the community that keeps you in line, right? I hear stories all the time. Vijay, pointing to the master, should we go away and leave him here? Just then Adar came in to take the master to the dining room, for the meal was ready. Sri Ramakrishna stood up and said, addressing Kedar and Vijay, come with me. They followed him and partook of the dinner together with the other devotees. After dinner, they all returned. All right, they all returned. I'm just checking something here. Yeah, so the master didn't let them get away with their discomfort. He made them come and eat, which is the real test, because in some of those Indian social conventions, you can't eat with just anybody, and not just anybody can eat with you, right? And there's restrictions and there's consequences for breaking those rules. And so the master now is taking personal responsibility. He's saying, come and eat, right? It's because I'm asking you. You come here and eat. After dinner, they all returned to the drawing room where the devotees sat around the master. Kedar said to him with folded hands, please forgive me for hesitating to eat here. Perhaps the thought had come to his mind that he should not have hesitated, since the master himself had no scruples about eating at Adar's house. Right? Just understanding devotees don't have caste. And so we don't treat each other that way. If you're a devotee, in Vivekananda's ideal, if you're a seeker of God, you're a Brahmin. That Brahmin is not a genetically inherited title, but it's a description of a person who loves God. Right? And that is the loophole that allowed me to take sannyas. Through that little loophole, I became a Brahmin. Kedar worked at Dhaka. Many devotees brought offerings of sweets and other food for him. Referring to this, Kedar said to the master, people want to give me food. What should I do? Lord, what is your command in this matter? Master, One can eat food even from an untouchable if the untouchable is a devotee of God. Period. Nothing else needs to be said, really. All right. One can eat food from an untouchable if the untouchable is a devotee of God. After spending 7 years in a God-intoxicated state at Dakshineshwar, I visited Kamarpukur. Oh, what a state of mind I was in at that time. Even a prostitute fed me with her own hands. But I can't allow that now. Kedar was about to take his leave. You see, so what we ultimately understand here is that it is you, your mind, that makes the world pure or impure, that makes one person good and another person evil, right? To the pure mind, everyone is divine. That's what he's saying. And when he was in that highest state of mind, like look what he says there. I just read it. I read across it and I tripped even in my own mind as I read it. He said here, after spending 7 years, 7 years in a God intoxicated state at Dakshineshwar, right? After living that in that state for 7 years, then a prostitute fed him with her own hands, and he saw only God. He saw only the Divine Mother. That's the purity of that mind. That's the complete loss of egoism. No narratives, no definitions, no judgments, just the flow of love in a constant, unending flow of equanimity. Absolutely beautiful. Kedar was about to take his leave. Kedar in a low voice, Lord, please transmit power to me. Many people come to me. What do I know? The Master, everything will be all right. One gets along well if one is sincerely devoted to God. Right? So that's the only thing you have to worry about. It's your sincerity. Right? And sincerity comes through discernment, and sincerity comes through experience. Right? It's like as you spend time in your practice and as God demonstrates his willingness to love you and his willingness to help you go forward and his willingness when you grow to trust that forgiveness, that mercy as his first motive toward you, right? And as you let down the guard, which is what your ego is just a guard to protect you from the unknown. And when you're willing to let go of that protection, when you're willing to surrender and give yourself permission to be defenseless, to be utterly vulnerable in front of the divine, then you can know everything will be all right. One gets along well if one is sincerely devoted to God. Yogendra, the editor of the Bengali paper, the Bangavasi, entered the room. The conversation turned to the personal God and to God without form. The Master, God has form, right? So he had personal experiences with Kali, with Shiva, with Buddha, with Rama. He saw Jesus. He saw them, talked to them. They entered into him. So God has form. And again, he is formless. How many aspects he has. We cannot comprehend him. Why should we say that God is formless only? Right? It's like the sun. How many different ways can the sun present itself to us? As a beautiful orange disk, as a diffused light through cloud, as a bright hot disk in the sky, as a giant fat oval as it sinks down into the ocean at the end of the day. But it's all the sun. It's all something that is the same. It's the perception that's different because the atmosphere or the conditions present it differently. And that's how it is for us. Our mind is the atmosphere, our mind is the conditions, and God is the sun. And so we look at this world and we see what we see because the conditions, and what are the conditions? Those narratives. The narratives that run in our mind as our karma, the things that are telling us stories about why and what is happening. How many aspects he has, we cannot comprehend him. Why should we say that God is formless only? Yogendra. That is the one amazing thing about the Brahmo Samaj. There, even a boy of 12 years old sees God as formless. The members of the Adi Samaj do not object very much to God with form. They are allowed to attend ritualistic worship if it takes place in respectable families, right? The master smiling, oh, how nicely he has put it. Even a boy sees the formless God, right? And so he's saying, it's like, yes, God with formless, it's a very satisfying idea. In the West, certainly that's what we're most confident with. But we know that in the West here in particular, we're not dealing with a formless God at all. We pray to him. Well, what you can't pray to a formless God, right? Where who are you going to be talking to, right? How are you separate from that formlessness? If there's no form, he's not separate from you, right? So where do you begin and God ends? And so to say we believe in a formless God, that's just a child talking about marriage. It's something they don't understand at all. We can hold it as an idea. And really, what we've done in the West is we've created formless God, which means you can't directly see him, but he's got all kinds of attributes, you know, 1,000 limitations, not in physical form, but certainly in every other way. So the formless God is a very high ideal and a very difficult one, right? And so God takes form for that reason. And God becomes Buddha, God becomes Jesus, God becomes Rama, so that we can see what he's talking about, so we can understand what an unconditional love is. This is what it looks like, guys. This is what a perfect life looks like. This is what you're shooting for. And then we get it. Like, wow, that looks cool. And so we jump in. All right, let's stop there for today.